We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Eagles! Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Well, good morning. Good morning. We got episode 180, Drunk on the Court this morning. Mark, we got it was a busy week for the Sixers. Very active on the trade deadline. So we'll break all that stuff down. Got some. We got the clarification on the Embiid surgery timeline recovery. So we'll talk about that. But busy week because it hasn't looked great.
No.
I think we're seeing the dramatic effects of how important Joel Embiid is to the success of the players on a roster, and how he is really this. Not that we needed the reminder, but this is like the visual of like he is the straw that stirs the drink, because he really does impact every other player on this roster. So talk to me. So let's start with the Embiid injury, because the Embiid injury, the news comes out, right? He's got the meniscus injury. I like the idea that they're handling it differently than they have in years past, where they've just kind of like tried to handle it with rest and treatment. They're handling it very clear cut, no pun intended. They're going to do the surgery. It's got a 4 to 6, 8 week timeline that has some kind of timestamps in there where they kind of reevaluate progress. And I like that, because that to me gives the clearest road for a potential return before the playoff run.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about it around that time, and it just made sense. At least to me, it made sense to get it done right away. There was no sense in trying to band-aid this, just because too. I think for not even just big men, just in general, but like playoff minutes are so hard, and to have to, to play those minutes on one leg seems
seriously
impossible. And it puts the Sixers in such a rough spot, just in general, because you have to think about the long term here, but things really were kind of gelling well. Nurse had gotten, Nurse has come in here, has done a nice job. He's been as advertised. Tyrese Maxey takes his game to another level. And Embiid turns in this season, at least to date, that was even better than his MVP season. So it felt like it was all coming together. And then, as you like to say, Don, we can't have anything nice.
I mean, literally, I think I gotta get on the graphics department, aka my spare time, and we gotta put together some kind of shirt with the podcast logo in there, because it is true.
Yeah.
We and Rich and I were talking about this, with all of the teams, even with the union. Like, within the last calendar year, right? From and I'm just going to say from Super Bowl Sunday last year.
Yeah.
Right. We had the Eagles dramatically lose after being up by double digits, and you had the Sixers epically falter in Game 6, and then have the non-compete effort in Game 7 in Boston.
Yeah.
And then you have the Phillies. They lose in the World Series, and then they come back in the division series the following year, and they lose in the NLCS after being up 3-2 and having 2 games at home. And you have the Flyers, who are on a really good trajectory right now. And then within a week of each other, they have the Carter Hart news comes out, and then you have the Carter Gauthier news comes out, and both of those things happen where you have to you lose a franchise cornerstone goalie for the foreseeable future, if not for forever, in this franchise, in this city. And you trade what was probably your best prospect, U.S. prospect, because he didn't want to be here and be part of a rebuilding franchise. And then the Embiid, when he's having the best season of his career. Like you said, go back and listen to some old episodes. You'll get sick of hearing the stat muse conversation, because it was the numbers were just eye popping, and then the injury happens. It's like we legit, like, I don't know what we did to piss off the sports gods in some other dimension.
Yeah.
Oh God, like, can we get a fucking break?
Yeah.
It's like it really does. It really does test your fanhood. And I think you're seeing a lot of that, right? Like, you saw, like, some of the more notable sports talk radio and some of the topics, and it just makes you turn the dial off, like, not even change the dial, like, just turn it off completely. Because the conversations then become, do you trade Joel Embiid? Is it time to revisit that? Like, if you're having that conversation legitimately, I really do question your your sports acumen, because whatever package you would get for Joel Embiid would not even come close,
Right,
to the player that he is and will be for the next 5 years.
Yeah. I'm not quite there yet with that whole thing. Even though this is like a really devastating blow, I can't. As long as Joel wants to be a part of it, I can't. I wouldn't have that conversation. I have too much respect for what he's done for this team and the player he is and all the things he's accomplished so far in his career. I mean, like, this is like really legacy stuff, as we've said on previous shows and shows in our archives, right? And the loss is my real worrisome part. It's just about this year, right? He'll be fine. Surgery, recovery, all that. He'll be fine for the long term, I think. But in the short term, or the immediate short term, or however you would like to put it, for this run for this year, the Sixers did make some moves at the trade deadline, swapped out some pieces. And my only concern there is that, as we know in the NBA, it does take a little bit of time for guys to kind of develop a chemistry and play off of one another and see what a guy does, right? Like, the Sixers had a really good shooting guard in Buddy Hield, right? But Buddy's coming into a lineup that doesn't have like that interior presence in the middle, and everything that they do runs through Embiid, right? So you have to kind of, it's incomplete, and then you have to take them which I guess is going to be the last week of the season, try to tie all that together for a playoff round, for a playoff run rather, and that seems really, really difficult to do. I mean, that puts Nick Nurse and his staff in a really tough spot. But
I think you're gonna. I think you're gonna see Nick Nurse really earn his paycheck.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for what it's worth, he's got the guys playing really, really tough.
He does.
Like you're not seeing the win column really. You know, they pick up the win last night against the Wizards, in a game that ended up being more of a sweat than I think. But I think with the roster that you're putting out right now, every game's going to be a sweat.
Right.
And I look at what he's getting out of guys. Like look last, like just for last night in particular, right? This game against the Wizards, you got a hell of a game from Ricky Council III. Like that's a guy that normally will be your 10th, 11th, 12th guy off the bench.
Yeah.
And he's getting meaningful. Like he was playing with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And playing really well. For you to get production out of guys like that at the back end of this roster that are now in a position where they're getting meaningful minutes, that to me is coaching.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing the dramatic effects of what Doc Rivers had on this roster versus what Nick Nurse is able to get. Because you're seeing Doc Rivers in Milwaukee right now, and it doesn't, that grass doesn't look any greener than it did before, at the beginning of the season, before they made the coaching change. I like where they are, but I like the move. So, right. So if we go transition to the trade deadline, right, the guys coming in, you get Buddy Hield from Indiana, you get Campaign from Milwaukee, and you add 2 second-round picks. And then the guy, Pat Bev. Now, Pat Bev, the guy, love.
Yes.
Pat Bev, the player, maybe not as productive. I think the off the court stuff may have kind of clouded a lot of people's judgment and feeling, mine included. I didn't understand it on the surface, but once I started to dig a little deeper, right, you get Campaign, who is kind of in that same breath, but maybe a little bit more offensively productive.
Yes.
Maybe not necessarily the veteran presence that Pat Bev might be, but if you look at the guys that go out, guys that are young, guys that are expiring contracts, you got rid of Marcus Morris Sr., which I thought was strange because you gave him the key to the city a couple weeks ago. You got rid of our boy Cork. So Cork Maz is out, but Cork Maz gets bought out. Yeah. He's out, but he gets bought out. So now he's a free agent. And I don't know that he lands anywhere in the NBA. He might be on his way back to Turkey. Yeah. Daniel House, and you part with 4 second-round picks.
Yes.
So the move that I didn't understand at all was the Jaden Springer move. You sell a former first-round pick who was showing signs of being really productive, really athletic, maybe in that backup point guard role, and you sell him for a second-round pick, and you sell him to Boston, and it will only be prophetic that he develops into a really productive NBA player in Boston and comes back to bite you.
Yeah, that would be absolute waste. We would never hear the end of it. I mean, if he's in Boston productive, like that one was mystifying. I don't like the idea. I think that was also a part of the deadline, in addition to all the things that you mentioned, which were all very apt points about Pat Bev and Morris and these guys. Them getting moved along in a vacuum wasn't the issue as much as I think it was that like they were trading them to teams in the East that they're competing against. What I mean? Like,
you gave Indiana, right? You got Buddy Hield from Indiana, right? But you gave them basically 2 guys in picks that aren't like I got to double check, but I obviously we know Korkmaz get bought out. Is Marcus Morris? Did that also get bought out?
I don't remember if he did or not.
But you essentially got Buddy Hield for nothing.
Yeah.
For second round picks and guys that were not going to be here next year.
Yeah, exactly.
But you trade Pat Bev to the Bucks and you gave them the missing piece that they needed.
Right. And that was kind of like what I think also that was also a part of it was like from everything that I was able to gather, I don't remember like I said, I'd have to look it up about Morris whether or not he was bought out by Indy or not. But from some of the things I was reading around the time that he was dealt there was that the Pacers could use a player like that. And same thing with Bev in Milwaukee, right? He's in Milwaukee, right? That's where he went. Yeah, like that's apparently some of the things that they needed. So it kind of was just like it wasn't just like you were moving these guys along. It was they were getting moved to teams in the East that you're competing with. Yeah, I mean everything that like I was at the game Friday against Atlanta, and Buddy played in that game. Campaign played in that game, and a lot of the things that we had talked about like off the court leadership stuff about Pat Bev. Not that I'm, a body language expert at it in any way, but I'm watching. We got there early, and I'm watching the warm ups and all. And Campaign comes out there, and he's rapping along with all the warm up songs. He's walking up the guys, coaches, trainers on the sidelines. It looked like from what I was able to gather, introducing himself. He walked right up to Buddy Hield when Buddy Hield came out, and they chatted. And I was like, he seems like he's really happy to be here. And so if he kind of brings some of that, like that kind of like energy, the second he steps on the floor, like, hey, like I'm ready, I'm ready, and I'm here to compete. I'm here to do what you guys need me to do. And I thought in that game and on Friday, much like the game against the Wizards last night, was like the Sixers could have very easily like folded in that game against Atlanta. Trey Young was on one the other night, and he was very good. He went for almost 40 in that game, and I think the Sixers were down as many as like 15 or 17 at one point, and they made it a game. And it was like you mentioned guys like Ricky Council, like he came in and he gave you something, which was I was not anticipating when he came out there. I thought Buddy played a really good game for it being his first game, in a new system with a new team. So that's I guess my big part of it for me right now is like I like the moves individually. I like Buddy Hield for a team going on a playoff run. Campaign's going to give you a little bit more offensively, as you said. A different type of player than Pat, but if he can give you like some of those things that Pat gave you, in terms of being, kind of like a locker room guy, like he seemed very like, very much embracing, from what I gathered on Friday, he seemed very like excited to be here and all, and that always helps when a guy like is excited to come here and contribute. And if he can give you some of those things, then they'll be fine. But it's just like, I just worry about that chemistry when it comes time for when it matters, right? Because to not go looking too far ahead, Buddy Hield's a free agent this summer. Like a lot of guys that you're looking at, I know that this is for this run, but the Embiid tree throws a monkey wrench into so many things in terms of like trying to develop chemistry.
To get him in-house, that might have been a guy that they would have targeted in free agency, and maybe having him in-house maybe gives them 3-4 months to maybe sell him on the idea of signing here.
That'd be great.
I know that a lot of these moves played into freeing up cap space for potential moves in the summer, because the free agent activity this summer is going to be a busy one, and I think they want to be major players in that market. But like I look at this and I think that you add a legitimate 3-point threat that once Embiid is on the court, space that would open up for him. He's not seeing it now in those first couple games, but I think the space that you get when you put him on the court, and you put the athleticism of a Kelly Oubre on the court, you put a guy like Nick Batum, who is also a 3-point threat.
Mm-hmm.
You can spread out the court, which makes room for Maxey to be able to drive and kick out or drive to the bucket, because he is showing the athleticism enough in this campaign this year to be able to, he's already elevated himself to be on the All-Star game on that level of player. I don't think he's at the level of Embiid where he's able to carry a franchise. But he's able to be a Robin to Embiid's Batman. I think that's a legitimate combo. And I think the more that you put players that can shoot around him, that to me is where this move makes sense. Right now, the buyout market is where this kind of goes to next, because they're going to have 3 of those buyout slots. Right. The news comes out late last night that Kyle Lowry is going to have his contract bought out, and his plan is to sign with the Sixers, which is great. Gives them a good veteran presence. Is not one that's like earth shattering. But if I got to pick between Kyle Lowry and anybody else, he's been in those wars.
Yes.
With the Heat, with the Raptors he's got a ring. He's been to game 7s. He's been on the road. He's battle tested. And I think for him to have an opportunity to be able to come home, right? He's a Doherty kid that, went from Doherty to Villanova to, be able, he's coming home.
Yeah.
Now listen, he had his opportunities to come home plenty of times and chose to go elsewhere.
Yes.
He's not, 29-year-old Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Right. He is in his mid to late 30s, where he's going to be, what you're going to get.
Right.
So talk about other guys, because the Spencer Dinwiddie, that train seems to have sailed. He's going to sign with the Lakers.
Yes.
Which for him, I get, right. You go out there, you're going to get a ton of minutes. You're going to play with LeBron and AD.
Yep.
No worries there. A guy that we talked about, who was sitting courtside reading a book at the Bucks game. Talk about Lopez, because I think with the Embiid injury, could be a guy that if I were them, I would target hard.
Yeah, and I think too, I with just another wrinkle to this with the Embiid thing was just that looking at the lineup. Without Joel, and then the trades, the Sixers are kind of like, I feel as though the Sixers are a little bit on the defensive end. We're a little bit, I don't know how to put it, but I think we need a little bit more defensively.
Okay.
But I think in the short term, and then again, I was just, so there's a little bit of recency bias because I was just at the game Friday, but like Reed and like I would have thought before, I mean, having Bamba and Reed, I'd be like, oh, they can band-aid this for a while. And then it's just like on the defensive end, they're not like, neither one of them are giving you anything, it feels. And like
they look more like they look more like turnstiles than they do anything else. It's bad.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, and then so I think adding like a player like Lopez, we've talked about him off the show before.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Spencer Dinwiddie. I was on Spencer Dinwiddie, and he's going out to LA. I've always been a fan of his game, so I wanted him here. But I'll take.
I would have liked him here, but
yeah. So yeah, I think with Lopez, that would be the perfect stopgap. And plus, he could give you something off the bench in the playoffs. Like he can play minutes. I think that that's the real takeaway from this whole thing, and the potential of adding him is because even when Embiid comes back for that playoff round, I don't know how limited or not he's going to be, or if he's going to be full go.
Right.
If he's somewhat limited, having Lopez behind him would be great. Because at
Having
least
that again, he kind of falls into that. He seems to me like the big man version of Kyle Lowry,
yeah,
right? A vet guy who's been in those playoff runs.
right,
You know what you're going to get. He's going to give you. He's not going to give you 37 minutes. 37 to 47 minutes. Like
yeah,
he's going to give you valuable minutes. He's going to be able to occupy space. He can be a defensive presence more than you would get from Paul Reed, from Mo Bamba.
yeah.
I would like it for them. I think to me it almost makes too much sense.
Yeah, and I think it's always easier too, like to have like one guy that does a couple different things well, even if they don't do things like extremely well. If they're like passable in a multiple categories instead of having to like stagger minutes with two guys that like I mean you can't have them on the floor at the same time, and it's
Right.
like so yeah, I mean like the Lopez thing is interesting. I would also like if they could add like I don't know what the roster space or whatever looks like, but just from like a wing depth standpoint to continue to add there, Otto Porter Jr. was bought out. That could be somebody they could look to add. I think Joe Harris was also bought out. If you want
Joe
to,
Harris was a guy that got bought out. I'm trying to look through some of the guys. Seems like Marcus Morris, I think he got flipped and traded to the Spurs, but he's supposed to get bought out.
Okay.
So, oh God, Joe Harris, Thad Young, Killian Hayes. The pickings are thin.
Yeah.
But it's I think if that's the case for them to be able to, Robin Lopez seems to me like he is the guy that just again makes too much sense for them.
Yeah.
Gallinari is a guy that's like, he's kind of like like it doesn't terribly move the needle for me.
No.
But it seems to me like that's a guy that like I'm trying to go through some other guys. I'm trying to see, Seth Curry is maybe a guy that may get bought out that I would love to bring him home. Davis Bertans is a guy that might get bought out who for whatever reason, whenever the Sixers play the Wizards, he turned into Larry Bird. But like, Chetty Osman is a guy that is a vet guy who played on some of those Cavs teams that went on runs. There's guys guys that I think, you got three spots, you got opportunities to be able to move, to get the vet presence in there so that if Embiid does come back healthy, great. But if he doesn't, you can still put together a viable NBA roster that will compete.
Yes.
Just to kind of put a bow on all this, the last couple games have been really, really tough to watch. Almost process-esque. You're getting valuable minutes from, like we said, like we talked about at the beginning, guys like Ricky Council III and my wife's new player that she can't wrap her head around his name, but Trequavion Queen. Just but what you're seeing some of those young guys, but those young guys are exactly what they are. They're not competing against legit NBA rosters.
Right. And that's kind of the tough part. Like, I mean, like they are dealing with beyond, like, I mean, the Embiid injury, which is like the big takeaway from it, right? Maxi's been under the weather and sick. He hasn't played. Batum's been in and out. So like there's been like guys.
Anthony Melton's out.
Robert
Covington's out. Right. So
So there's lots of guys out here. And so
KJ Martin's getting legit minutes.
Yeah, KJ's playing. So Yeah, I mean, it was. I like I said, I was at the game Friday, and it was like I'm sitting there with my fiance. I'm telling her, it was her first Sixers game. She had never been to a game before.
Oh, get out.
Yeah, and I'm telling her, the war stories are coming down here. And there's 5,000 of us, in the 11-win Sixers, and I'm coming to the
Oh
game.
my goodness. When they
And
those are the days when they couldn't give away the tickets.
no, and
They're standing out on Broad Street just like anybody that drives by.
I was one of those people too. I was coming in. I was watching that.
What did they call those guys? The guys that used to sit under the bench. Or not under the bench.
Oh,
They used to
yeah.
sit behind the basket. They used to get dressed up.
Yeah.
What did they call them?
I don't.
It was like a
remember the
war.
guy.
It was like a war reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Revolutionaries.
Right.
But those guys used to show up in like the revolutionary gear.
Yeah.
But like at that point, they're just giving away tickets.
Yeah. And it very much felt like those days, coming down there, like looking at the lineup and I like to think, I'm following them pretty close. And I'm like, geez, like, look at this lineup. Like, I don't even know a lot about this guy. Like you mentioned Queen and all. I'm like, I don't even know much about some of these guys.
Yeah.
So, but it's a tough spot to be in, but
It is.
Because
they've lost 4 out of the last 5.
yeah,
They did have they played Brooklyn, Dallas, Golden State, Atlanta. Those are all losses.
mhm,
They play the Wizards, but this stretch coming up is not going to give them any breaks. They're gonna play, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're gonna play Cleveland, Miami, New York, and then they're playing Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week,
oh,
and it's Cleveland, Miami, New York, Cleveland, and then Sunday they play Boston or they play Milwaukee, and then Tuesday they play Boston.
oh, Jesus.
So they're this next stretch of 6 games is going to be one that it might hold your horses, Sixers fans. It might get ugly fast.
Yeah,
because
that was that was one of my thoughts, like coming in, like with everything that's happened here, and I'm like, I didn't even realize that was the schedule the next week, but I mean, that could dramatically change. We're talking about trying to get out of the second round here as the Sixers. They might even not get out of the first round, depending on
because
where they fall.
Right, I'm just pulling up playoff, right? So right now they're sitting in the 5th spot behind. So you got Boston. Boston is 40-12, and just like they just reloaded and just didn't hit pause on anything. They just hit the gas. But you got Cleveland in the number 2 spot
for Porzingis, like to add to Boston. I mean, what a revelation he's been for them. And always talented, but just never was healthy. And now he's there. And
he goes to Boston and he drinks the holy water up at Boston College, and all of a sudden is now like the second. He's now the second coming, and he just looks like the great white hope, and just up there just killing it. But you're seeing how productive he can be with, playing aside Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and they're just they look like they're on the fast track to get back to the finals. But you got Cleveland and Milwaukee right behind them, and then New York, and then the Sixers and Indiana.
Okay.
But the Sixers are 31-21, just above Indiana. But if you look at like that play-in section, Orlando, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, they'd have to have a monumental collapse to fall beyond Atlanta.
Yeah,
because Atlanta's 24-29, and they're not playing at. They might be bad, but I don't think they're going to be bad enough to fall past Atlanta.
No, I wouldn't expect
it wouldn't surprise me though if if by the end of the season they're sitting in that 7-8 spot, looking at that play-in tournament, trying to figure out a way to get. Yeah, but even then, right? You play in that play-in tournament, and you're going to play either some combination of Boston, Cleveland, or Milwaukee.
Right.
And you're going to be lucky to get out. Like the chances of you getting out of the first round are now.
Yeah. And that's
slim and none.
That's my big worry, I think, like for them right now, you know, and then like, you know, you look at also on like the flip side of it, you know, we were just talking about the trade deadline and stuff. Look at the job New York did, right? Like the Knicks aren't even really like, I can't believe like we're talking about the Knicks making good decisions, but you know, they
got new leadership.
New leadership.
They got new leadership making different decisions up there, and they're just in a spot where all their decisions are all making sense, and they're building quite an impressive roster around Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. So that was a really good you know, that was another that was a nice piece of business for them on trade deadline day. I think they could come away feeling really good about that. And that they're like very much in that mix of, you know, the top teams in the East. I wouldn't expect the Sixers to fall much, like, you know, but if you're looking at that too, like, I mean, like there's such, you know, if things were to get that bad and you're looking at a play-in tournament type of deal, I mean, like you don't really have the time, right? Like you're dealing with a really, really like thin margin of error, like, you know, with a play-in tournament. And even though, you know, losing Embiid has a dramatic effect on the group and things like that, you shouldn't be that bad. You know, you shouldn't be that bad. So
yeah, I mean, you still have legit NBA guys on your roster.
Yes,
right?
you have plenty. Yeah.
Right? Like Tobias Harris is a legit NBA guy and should be able to carry you.
Yeah.
You know, Kelly Oubre is a vet. Nick Batum is a vet. You have vet guys that you would hope would be able to carry you, but you know, we'll see what happens on this in this next stretch and see where they are, you know, in 2 weeks. But it's going to be it'll be an interesting ride, and you know, we'll see what happens in terms of, you know, how the timeline for Embiid to come back. You know, they're going to reevaluate in 4 weeks. They'll see what happens. You know, it's just kind of a wait and see, and I feel like, you know, we're not that far off from where we were when we found out about the injury. It's just going to be a kind of a wait and see. But listen, we're gonna pay some bills. We'll put that in air quotes because we're not really getting paid. But we'll play some commercials. We'll come back on the other side and we'll play and we'll talk all things Flyers. So hold it together and we'll be right back.
Von C. Brewing Company is a 20-barrel, 16,000 square foot microbrewery with a 2,500 square foot tasting room, including a spacious outside beer gardens in Norristown, PA, in the heart of Montgomery County. The Von C. family is part of the family that started C. Schmidt and Son Brewing in 1860. Stop in Wednesday through Sunday and taste a variety of draft and 16-ounce cans of originally brewed beer and tell them the Drunk on Broad crew sent you. Von C. Brewing is located at 1210 Stenbridge Street, Suite 300 in Norristown. Cheers.
Team Clicks are the only glasses for real sports fans. With interchangeable arms, you can support all of your favorite teams, or even make and create custom options as well. These die-hard sports fans have realized that sports fans needed something other than face paint to show their love and passion for their teams. Go to teamclicks.com/DOB and show your love for your hometown team.
La Torrent's curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come and fits perfectly with your every outfit and style. Our range of classic watches aren't just a great perfect formal and casual accessory, but a time machine that takes you back to memories. Explore our collection of timeless watches that can reflect your taste, personality, and personal style. Our exclusive collection of carefully curated, affordable luxury watches is what you need to make a personalized style statement. You can take pride in your prized possession, handing it over to the next generations as your most loved asset that they can also own and display with the same pride. These high-quality pieces stand the test of time, giving exceptional value and return on your investment. Go to live-touraim.com and use code DOB at checkout and get 10% off.
If you're looking for unique sports apparel, check out Streaker Sports. They've dug deep into the archives and have brought back some incredible defunct team logos and have even created entire defunct league collections. They also have collections paying homage to sports culture, including the Miracle on Ice, Slap Shot, Caddyshack, the Mighty Ducks, and even have a license with Wiffle Ball and USA Hockey. Only for Drunk on Broad listeners, use code BROAD at checkout to get 10% off anything at streakersports.com. Again, that's 10% off anything at streakersports.com with discount code BROAD.
This is the Broad Street Line, where Philly sports fans leave all of their sports hot takes. Call 267-405-3062 and show us your passion for Philly sports. Don't forget to tune in every Wednesday at 8:30 when we listen to your live reactions to the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat.
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
And we're back talking all things Flyers. Mark, we got it was a very cool week to see, you saw, TK get to be highlighted as the representative at the All-Star game. You got to see them. I think it was a well-needed break. Give them a good opportunity to hit reset, because going into the break, it was getting kind of ugly. They had lost 5 straight going into the break.
Right.
Yeah. You get them the opportunity to kind of step away, get a reset, and they're coming back off the break looking pretty good. 3 straight wins, in the month of February, and they go down to Florida and win 2-1. Then they play Winnipeg and Seattle at home, and they win both of those. Really impressive to see them come out of this break and really put new energy on the second half of the season.
Yeah. You're right. It really, the coming into the All-Star break, it was a really rough stretch for them there. And it did come. The break came at a perfect time for them. And then having that week off, leading into the All-Star break, that's kind of it's tough to kind of come back. We saw last night, the Flyers played the Kraken, and they're coming off a week layoff, or a week. It was a little bit longer than that, I think, for them. And that's tough to come back mid-season and kind of just have the chemistry. But the Flyers have done it. They've come back, they've played really well. They've kind of picked up where they left off in the first half of the season, when things were looking really good. And they've just the production's been, it's the guys that have been doing it for them all year, right? It's the Konechny's, Owen Tippett, Jamie Drysdale's added a fresh coat of paint to the defense. It's Sam Erson's continued his strong play in between the pipes. Like, it's all the guys doing the work that they've been doing for the group for the majority of the year. So it's hard really to be like they're sitting in that playoff spot, the third in the Metro, I think, and even teams behind them. Like, there's a lot of teams in the Metro not particularly playing all that great right now. So it kind of, as of today, it feels like, like playoffs are certainly attainable for this group, which
I mean,
was
while
unthinkable.
while you keep talking, I'm going to do a little bit of research because the last I remembered, we were kind of floating in those mid 60s of the percentage. But you look at a team that is just playing really well, almost playing. They're playing way above their pay grade, and this is, I think the thing that I like is that the message coming out of the organization is still that they are maintaining this timeline of like, yes, we're kind of playing above where we thought we might play, but we are also not going to start reaching and fast forwarding this timeline, that we're really going to give ourselves the opportunity to build this thing right. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're, trading people at the deadline. Wouldn't surprise me if they're acquiring people at the deadline, because they know that that's the way that they're going to be able to build this roster so that it's better long-term rather than short-term. But listen, I'm also the guy that watches those games wildly impressed and is searching up Stanley Cup gifts, because I'm also all in. Like at the same time I'm watching these games with no expectations.
Yeah.
I'm also the same guy that's like searching Twitter to go through like the gifs of like the people polishing the Stanley Cup and the guys skating around, because I love the idea that the young guys on this roster could potentially have the opportunity to be able to get that playoff experience, and how valuable that will be when this team gets to a place where they are buyers, where they are bought all in. So like I'm caught in between, but I'm in a good place because like I'm excited, but I'm also watching it with like mild, like little to no expectation at all.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way. Like, I've been watching them very much through the same lens of not having much of an expectation for the group, which has kind of been relaxing watching them and just guys like just watching them win, feeling good about the fact that they're winning, instead of just hanging on every shift like I would normally. So that's been nice. But I think like, I mean, like coming up with the deadline, the trade deadline, there's going to be a couple different, I think, things for them. Like I can certainly see a scenario play out with this deadline where you're taking back maybe some young players off of that are a part of like an organization that's clearly a contender, but are not players that maybe kind of got pushed down the depth chart, not because of lack of talent, but just because like there wasn't a spot for them. Like that's what happened in Florida with Owen Tippett. When
I was just about to say, we got a guy, we were on the beneficial end of that move, and you know, he's come here, got the ice time, and been really successful. To the point where he gets the extension where they get to lock him up, which is a move that I love for a young roster to be able to lock a guy up at a number that's really, really cap friendly and team friendly.
Yeah, and you know, the expectation is that the salary cap is going to go up this year,
right?
And will likely go up in the future. So that kind of like pushes down, you know, how much of the percentage of the cap they're taking up, and it'll age well, and that's a good thing. But yeah, like a player like Owen Tippett, where he had kind of got pushed down the depth chart in Florida, not because of anything that he did. It was just that Florida was so deep at forward, and the Flyers were able to take him back in a trade. The Cutter Gauthier trade was another one. Flyers get Jamie Drysdale back, but Jamie Drysdale. Oh, I don't know if I lost you there.
Yeah, you're kind of going in and out. It's cool. No worries. Like when I talk about the percentages for the playoffs, right? Right now they're sitting at 78.8% as far as being able to on the verge of making the playoffs. So in 8 out of 10 scenarios, they're going to make the playoffs. It seems to me like it would take a monumental collapse for them to be able to get to a position where they're not making the playoffs. And I'm going to hang my hat on the 2.1% chance that they win the cup. I'm going to live on that so you're telling me there's a chance, right? Like that they've got, they've got a legit roster right now to be a playoff team and play and get guys that are going to be here in 3 to 5 years, get those guys playoff experience. Which, to me is exactly where you want to be. Do you have a guy or guys in mind that you think would fit that Owen Tippett-ish role?
There's just rumors that just broke, I think over the last couple of nights from the fourthperiod.com.
Okay.
And Buffalo apparently is shopping Casey Middlestat, who's a centerman. Ooh. Buffalo would be a team I would kind of circle in on because they have some good young players that haven't quite figured it out yet. I think you could bring in some guy like Middlestat would be a guy. Another player that they have that's a centerman that I think that would be beneficial if you were the Flyers would be Peyton Krebs.
Okay.
These are guys that, Middlestat's a good player already, but I think Krebs is still trying to figure it out. He's had I think his draft year, he suffered a pretty serious ACL injury. But these are two guys that I feel like just need to play. And maybe in Middlestat's, in a situation like Middlestat's, he might just need to the structure would help him.
I got you.
Buffalo's has a lot of good young talent, but I think that's been a big issue for them over the years. Is just having a worthwhile structure for those young guys to play in. They've picked at the top of the draft many, many years, and it hasn't yielded any real success for them. So that part, those are two players. Middlestat's I'm super interested in. Krebs, both those players' skill sets too match kind of what the Flyers need. Guys who kind of think pass first. Flyers have a lot of guys who can really shoot the puck, but they need guys that can get them the puck. And those are two guys that they would be at the top of my list that kind of fit that Owen Tippett type of acquisition. So
these teams are not giving these guys away. Who are guys on the roster that you feel like are guys that could get moved? Because there are guys I'm looking at guys like Nick Seeler, right, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Sean Walker's a guy that they've talked about potentially re-signing. They've talked about potentially moving on from. Marcus Stahl is a guy he's a 37-year-old vet that I'm sure a team that's going on that has plans for a deep cut run that they're going to be maybe interested in. Anybody that you feel like there are guys that are going to be on the move?
Yeah, I would anticipate Sean Walker to be moved. The Flyers hit such a home run, with that acquisition, and then for him to come in and play as well as he has, they should be able to net something, some future assets that'll really help them for a player like Walker. He's come in here. He's been a fit like a glove. Always a talented guy. I think things happened and things with LA. I think it was a depth chart thing again. And injuries had, you have a couple injuries, you kind of stumble down the depth chart and you're all of a sudden you're on the outs. And So, Walker's one that I think would be an interesting fit to for a number of teams. I think like Toronto's kind of circled around that. Edmonton has been another team that's been reported to have interest there.
Okay.
And yeah, I think the other one would be Scott Lawton, which is always tough
Okay.
for a player that really seems to enjoy being here and playing for the Flyers. But I think when Ryan Poehling signed his extension, that was kind of the writing on the wall for Scotty. Poehling's younger. He's bigger than Lawton, and he brings a lot of the same skill sets, and he signed for less. So
yeah. So what? He's a guy. Again, I think your assessment of that, like the guy that loves to be in the city, really does fit the mold of a guy that you would want on your team. What's his value? Like, is his value like? Are we talking like you get prospects back? Are we talking more picks? Because I think that's kind of where this team is in terms of being able to build this roster. They're building assets in both spots. Where do you think if he does get moved, what's the most likely return?
So it's been reported by a number of people that the Flyers are kind of holding firm to like a first round pick. There was a rumor over the summer that St. Louis was interested in acquiring Lawton.
That's right. I remember that.
And that it may have been like they may have talked about a first rounder or something like that. Maybe the Blues kind of scuffed at that. I don't remember the exact details of what the rumor was, what was like circulating as the rumor. A lot of people, I think, felt like that maybe that was the time to move him. That Lawton's had kind of an up and down year. He scored a pretty goal last night, but he's been kind of up and down this season, and but I think he's like one of those guys that's like really, really well thought of like across the league as like a veteran leader type. And, I think a late first rounder wouldn't be out of the realm of like possibility for the Flyers. I think that's probably what they're looking at for Walker as well. But I could see that being what they get in return. Like,
sure. What about a guy like Ristolainen? Is he a guy that has value to be able to move? I know there's like he's in year 2 of a 5-year deal, so there's that AAV of it's what, like around 5.
Yeah,
I think it is maybe that maybe makes some teams cautious about making that financial commitment, but
probably. Yeah. Were you gonna say something?
Oh no.
No.
I thought you were going to talk. Is that something that like? Do you think that that's a guy that I think if there's another guy that like maybe that's a trade candidate too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think that there's been Ristolainen's game has done a complete 180 like under Tortorella and Brad Shaw.
Yeah.
And he's really kind of like tightened it up, like using all of his physical skills. And the Flyers would probably have to retain some money there on Ristolainen. And I think comparatively speaking, looking at him and Walker, it's kind of like a Ristolainen deal becomes a little bit more intricate versus like a guy who's like a UFA in the summer. And it just kind of, Walker's, I think Walker's making like $1.5 million less maybe or something like that than Risto is.
True.
So it kind of just becomes a little bit more easily digestible for a team. They may look to move Ristolainen on, but I don't think that would happen at the deadline. Maybe that'd be a summertime thing. They would probably, I think Walker's probably the guy that they're gonna
move.
Yeah, I think that would be the one that they're gonna move. If I had to guess.
the guy that I've loved, there are two guys that I love watching right now. Konechny is one of them, right? Konechny is a guy who's just been a fun watch when he's on the ice. Between his productivity in terms of leading the team in goals with 24 goals,
Yeah.
but also the extracurricular stuff, like the extracurricular stuff when he's just mixing it up with like with the other guys that are on the ice, like just kind of stirring the pot. We've talked about it in some a couple other episodes, but he has just been a fun guy to watch. But Owen Tippett has just been wildly impressive. Not surprising that they felt the need to maybe lock him up. Who are guys like that on this roster that you feel like have just been impressive?
Those are two big ones. I mean, like Konechny's a big one. Another all-star season for him this year. He's another one, much like we just mentioned Lawton with the leadership aspect. That I mean, like Travis Konechny's really kind of grown up here over the last year.
Yeah.
There's like a level of maturity too, I think, on and off the ice he kind of carries himself with now that I don't remember him having. And that's been great. One of the guys that really sticks out to me when I watched him play and his skill set, just kind of, it's very quietly, he's been comparative, like once again, comparative to like Tippett and guys like Konechny. I mean, Joel Farabee, I think, has had a fantastic season.
Yeah.
And it's been very quietly a good season, but he's been very good.
Yeah, I mean,
for a little
second
while
on
now.
its second on the team in points, right?
Yeah.
Second on the team in goals. Second on the team in assists. Like you're right in terms of his productivity. It's just been really, really good. And I think that this is all directly connected to coaching, right? You're getting more out of guys because maybe the expectations are a little bit more, maybe the anticipation of the connection between effort and playtime. Like, I don't know what that internal conversation is, but you can see that they're able to get this production from these guys that frankly just wasn't there in previous years.
Yeah. And to go back to Farabee too, like I think the thing that really like I find, and there's no like stat for it, but it's just like watching Joel play, and he thinks the game at a very high level. He's a very intelligent hockey player, especially when it comes to like offensive zone creativity and things like that. He knows where to go to score goals, and he knows how to set up guys to score goals. And that's a hockey brain thing, and really he's been really good. I think like I haven't seen a lot of people like really kind of delve into how good he's been this year, but he really has been very good for this team. We talk a lot about Konechny and Tippett, and those guys are a lot of fun and are having great years. But Joel's I've really been impressed with Joel this year and how he's played. And I mean, like they've gotten a lot of like, they're really a sum of their parts, right? Like,
100%.
This group has really kind of done it as a group, and it's fun. It's fun to see them win and play like that.
I mean, it really is. Before we get into something fun, talk about the goalies, because right, the combination of Carter Hart and Sam Ersson was a really good combination where they were both playing at really high levels. They were both kind of playing off of each other. Now you're looking at a combination of Ersson and Cal Peterson, right?
Yeah.
And the drop off from Sam Ersson to Cal Peterson is more dramatic than the one from Carter Hart to Sam Ersson.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you feel like that they may address at the trade deadline? Because, I don't know. I don't know if they bring in another vet. I don't know if they decide to bring in one of the young guys in the system where they really have a lot of depth.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I'm not sure. Like, Peterson's making a lot of money, and they had him in the AHL mostly to bury the deal. I mean, like when Hart was here,
Truly.
you know what I mean? He was the third guy on the depth chart. It was like very, very evidently the third guy. From all accounts and things I was able to gather from his time in Lehigh Valley with the Phantoms, he wasn't particularly good down there either. So I don't know.
It's
You know,
true.
I thought he played well last night, but it just, I thought the team did a good job in front of him as well. But yeah, that's an interesting question because I don't know, like, if maybe they want to burn an asset to acquire a backup guy.
Yeah.
At least not right now.
Okay.
Again, maybe a summertime thing. Because I think even though, like, as you said, Don, like they have a lot of prospects in their system, goaltending prospects.
Mm,
Some of those guys are, I think, a few years away from having like an impact at the pro level.
right.
So, maybe you sign a stopgap guy in the summertime to pair with Urson. But man, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody that comes along in the deadline that where they're able to acquire him and he's kind of real cheap.
Yeah, that's my only thought. Like my only thought
Yeah.
is like if there is an opportunity to upgrade, I'm not saying you go out and get it. You're not going out and getting a number one, but
Right.
like if you go out and get a guy who's better than Cal Peterson,
Yeah.
that to me seems like a no brainer going down the stretch because
Yeah.
you want to give your team the best opportunity to win,
Mhm.
and it just seems to me like if there is a place where you can upgrade, it's probably there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that for sure.
So listen, before we jump out of here, I got something fun. Like there were two videos that I came across. They're one is from a high school hockey game in New Jersey. I'm talking about the post goal celebrations, right? So I want to go. I'm going to show you. We're going to play the video, and then we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll play the other video, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. We'll kind of vote on. This may have to be a Twitter poll,
All right.
at some, but I just love the fun aspect of this. Something that you don't necessarily see at the NHL level, but
Yeah.
let's as we say, let's roll this beautiful
Roll the
footage
tape.
here. So we got here we go. So let's take all the graphics off. We're gonna go full screen. All right, so here we go. Right, so we're skating back. We put the glove on the stick, and we pretend that it's a selfie stick.
Yeah.
Right, it just beautiful goal, by the way.
Yeah. Very, very good shot.
Left-handed shot goes right side over the blocker. Really, really impressive. What are your thoughts? Your thoughts on the glove as the pseudo selfie stick?
That is great. I love that. I love that that celebration there. Very timely, right? Like very, very, very timely. It's not a classic, but it's original. And I love that. I love that. I mean, that's something that he was talking to his boys about in the locker room before. He's like, yeah,
Oh,
if I score tonight, I'm doing the selfie stick celebration.
yeah. And the part that I love is like I love that it's high school hockey,
Mhm.
and it's like you got like I'm just looking at the clip right now, right there. If you look in the top left hand corner, do you see that jersey? Like that is an elite NBA jersey. Do you know who that is?
Who
It's
is
a
that?
number 55 Kings,
Kings.
Sacramento Kings.
Who is
Do you
50?
remember White Chocolate?
Oh
Jason
my God.
Williams,
Yeah.
right? Like you got the Jason Williams
Oh my God.
Sacramento Kings jersey. You got the high school kids banging on the glass,
Yeah.
leaning over, like just like elite level atmosphere for
Yeah.
for that one. That was so that's goal number one,
I like that
right?
because too, like I think like for him, Like for most kids at that level, right? Like that'll be the greatest goal he'll ever score in his life, and
Right.
he'll talk
You
about that
know,
forever.
absolutely. You know that
Yeah.
he's going to be talking about that for forever and a day. That like
Yeah.
he'll be 100 talking
Yeah.
about that. Now the second one here. So the second one is I'm not sure at what level or what team, but we'll just
Yeah.
we'll play it and then we'll here we go.
Throw right from the goalie's ball.
So he pops the goal, right? And the
Pops the
goal
bottle.
pops the bottle. The bot and just in all one fluid motion, picks up the goalie's water bottle and just takes a squirt and then like chucks it. It's like one of those like when you're in the backyard, like with your boys, college, right? You crack the beer, you
Yeah.
chug it, and then you just like you throw it in the yard, and you're like, it could not be more fun. Like I
Yeah.
just that one to me was like I'm gonna rewind it, watch it again because it's just like if you watch right, he's skating down right the left-handed shot
Yeah.
over the blocker, top shelf,
Great shot.
right? The bottle pops up. The only thing that Mark that would have made this more elite is if he caught it midair. Like this again, this looks like high school, right? But
Yeah.
grabs the bottle, almost like he was like cracks the bottle, takes a chug, throws it up. Just
Yeah.
like sometimes you gotta just get back to fun. And
Yeah.
this to me, I just saw this. This to me was just like fun. So like,
Yeah.
all right. So if you have to go selfie stick, or I'm gonna call this one the beer chug. Like,
Okay.
do you have a preference?
Oh man, these are good choices.
Right?
They're very good choices. I love the selfie stick. I think that's original. Not that this one wasn't, but I
Right.
love the selfie stick. My thought, I had some friends send me the one with the beer chug one.
Okay.
When the kid popped the bottle. You also were one of the people that sent it to me, and
Gotcha.
so I was watching that, and I just thought right away too. For just old school hockey in me for the bottle pop one, I'm just like, you might have to get your ass kicked for that. You don't drink out of the goalie's water bottle. You know what I mean? Like there might be a brawl going there.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there was some post puck drop
Yeah.
conversations that happen.
Yeah. For
But it-
some reason, I don't find the selfie stick to be as showing up.
Okay.
But they're both great. They're both great. I did not expect when I saw that the beer chug one. I did not expect him to pick up the water bottle and do that. But
Like I said, the only thing that would have elevated that is if he was able to skate there fast enough to be able to grab it midair. Like
oh, that would have been
like
amazing.
that would have been like ESPN top 10 kind of talent right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the first one. That's my vote. I like the selfie stick one.
Okay. The beer chug one just had me like right back in college, like backyard with your boys. Like I remember, so
Yeah.
we had a house in Aston when I was at Newman.
Okay.
And listen, my parents aren't listening, but there were times where we would climb out the attic window and like sit on the roof. Probably wasn't the smartest idea, but I'm still sitting here. It's okay.
Yeah.
But like it reminded me of one of those times where you just crack a beer, you chug it, and then you're just like grenade launch into the yard and you clean it up the next day.
Yeah.
So like, but I'm gonna have to figure out a way to put together some kind of way to put the videos in the tweet and figure out a way to kind of get it out there on a poll. But it was just it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
And then
I love that.
the one thing I saw last night, did you see I love the Carolina Hurricanes, what they're doing with wearing the Whalers, all
they
the
look
Whalers.
clean. Yeah.
They had the green pants.
Yeah.
but I love that they are throwing back to the origin of that franchise, and really kind of bringing that level of nostalgia back into the NHL.
Yeah.
Would love to see the Avalanche maybe go back to a Nordiques, maybe a Nordiques throwback.
Yeah.
There are plenty of opportunities in the league with teams that have moved, but would love to see more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The Whalers ones were really sweet. The ones that
They are really, really clean.
they are. The ones that I think like really knock them out of the park for me is what the Minnesota Wild have done with they've kept the Minnesota Wild logo, but they have an alternate where they rock the Minnesota North Star just yellow and gold, or the gold and green.
Okay.
Those are really sharp, and they kind of mix both franchises together, and
like that.
That's pretty.
And
cool.
That's a little funky because that franchise moved to Dallas, and
right?
Still kept the star because of the connection with the Lone Star State and everything. So there's like,
Yeah,
but I like that. I like the idea of keeping the color scheme, but maybe with the update with the new. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, I like
Very
those. Cool. But the Whalers ones are sweet, and they're pretty.
I love, for some reason, the white, the green, and the blue just all kind of work really well together. It's just a fun. Just something. Listen, sometimes you got to just get back to the fun stuff that you enjoy. But Mark, anything you want to talk about on the way out here?
Nothing much really here. Like for the deadline will be interesting coming up here. I'll have the Ramos Roundup out Monday morning again. We're also working on getting getting some more water cooler talk episodes up coming up here. So we'll do that, and so keep an eye out for the socials, and they'll be updated soon.
Mark, listen, it's Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday, yeah.
Okay, who you got? Give me a score and give me a player of the game. Who you got? I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on that, even if this is the hockey portion of the show.
Right. I'm gonna go 34-31 Chiefs. And it's hard not to go with Mahomes as the guy that puts on the show here.
Okay.
But I just can't. I'm like I think a lot of people. I just can't get excited for these two teams. I can't stand the Niners.
Rich and I were talking. There is a lot of fatigue. There is a lot of fatigue for both teams. And listen, on some level, they're both really elite. They're both playing consistently year after year after year, getting back to 1 million playoff games and such. But like, to get to this level, this quick, this fast, I'm gonna go. I think I said with Rich, I was like 30. It was like 31-24.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go a little out of the box. I'm gonna go with a guy who's plus 8,000 on the MVP odds.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go Chris Jones.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm feeling like a multi-sack, maybe a strip sack with a scoop and score.
All right. Yeah.
But I think the Chiefs get it done.
I hope you hit on that too. That'll be nice.
Well, listen, that's all purely speculative, because I would never be able to imbibe in the gambling because I would constantly be chasing my money. And I like my position with my wife and being married and not with my stuff on the front lawn. So, that's why I don't imbibe in sports gambling, because I'm no good at it. And I'd be flushing money down the toilet. So on that, don't take my gambling advice. Have a good Super Bowl Sunday, and we'll talk to you later.
All right.
All right, later. Take care, Philly. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
This is the Broad Street Line, where Philly sports fans leave all of their sports hot takes. Call 267-405-3062 and show us your passion for Philly sports. Don't forget to tune in every Wednesday at 8:30 when we listen to your live reactions to the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat.
Von C Brewing Company is a 20-barrel, 16,000 square foot microbrewery with a 2,500 square foot tasting room, including a spacious outside beer garden in Norristown, PA, in the heart of Montgomery County. The Von C family is part of the family that started C. Schmidt and Son Brewing in 1860. Stop in Wednesday through Sunday and taste a variety of draft and 16-ounce cans of originally brewed beer and tell them the Drunk on Broad crew sent you. Von C Brewing is located at 1210 Stenbridge Street, Suite 300 in Norristown. Cheers.
Team Clicks are the only glasses for real sports fans. With interchangeable arms, you can support all of your favorite teams, or even make and create custom options as well. These die-hard sports fans have realized that sports fans needed something other than face paint to show their love and passion for their teams. Go to teamclicks.com/DOB and show your love for your hometown team.
La Torrens' curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come and fits perfectly with your every outfit and style. Our range of classic watches aren't just a great perfect formal and casual accessory, but a time machine that takes you back to memories. Explore our collection of timeless watches that can reflect your taste, personality, and personal style. Our exclusive collection of carefully curated, affordable luxury watches is what you need to make a personalized style statement. You can take pride in your prized possession, handing it over to the next generations as your most loved asset that they can also own and display with the same pride. These high-quality pieces stand the test of time, giving exceptional value and return on your investment. Go to la-touraine.com and use code DOB at checkout and get 10% off.
If you're looking for unique sports apparel, check out Streaker Sports. They've dug deep into the archives and have brought back some incredible defunct team logos and have even created entire defunct league collections. They also have collections paying homage to sports culture, including the Miracle on Ice, Slap Shot, Caddyshack, the Mighty Ducks, and even have a license with Wiffle Ball and USA Hockey. Only for Drunk on Broad listeners, use code BROAD at checkout to get 10% off anything at streakersports.com. Again, that's 10% off anything at streakersports.com with discount code BROAD.